Are we recording? Hello? Hi guys! So originally I wanted to do a Q&A session of all the questions I've been getting through emails and stuff throughout the last few months. And so I thought I would do that and write it all up in a blog post and post it, and I started, and it quickly started turning into a novel. So I decided to do this instead and figured it'd be a little easier. So I just took the most common questions that I've been getting and thought I'd answer them real quick. So let's get started. I'm constantly seeing lighting demonstrations with photographers using expensive lighting equipment that I can't afford. Do you use a lot of studio lighting on location, and what do you suggest for those of us on an extremely tight budget? I totally feel your pain on this one. When I first started, I was spending a lot of time on YouTube because that's mostly how I learned. And I remember seeing all these lighting demonstrations with all this stuff, and at the end they would have this product to sell. And I kept thinking, well, that must be the thing that will help me. That product must be the one that will take my photography to the next level. And honestly, it doesn't really work that way.
What? No way!
It depends on what kind of a style you're going for. Personally, I don't like a lot of high contrast in my photos. I like very diffused light. And so even when I do use studio lighting, I'm trying to mimic a natural light. So outside, I usually don't take a lot. But what I do take are these. They're just black and white foam boards, if they're even called that. They're about this big. I don't know if you guys can see that. Roughly that size. I've got one black one and one white one. White adds light. White adds wherever you want the light to be. You can use it to reflect. You can use it to block the sun if you need to. And black takes away. Black is what more accentuate the shadows and the darker parts of the image. So on location, these are really easy to carry around, especially if I have all my gear and stuff in a bag or backpack. I can just carry these in my hands, just put them under my arm and call it good. Half the time I leave them at weddings or I leave them at clients' houses, and oh well, it doesn't matter. We'll get a new one. $2.69. The other thing that I use a lot of, I'm probably going to get slammed for this in the comments by like real photographers. I use flashlights. I use the crap out of flashlights. Underwater strobes and underwater photography gear is extremely expensive. Even in photography gear in general is expensive. Underwater stuff is crazy expensive. So for underwater lighting, I usually take one of these bags. These aren't the greatest things for your actual camera because they do have a pretty high rate of tearing and hurting your camera, but I put flashlights in them all the time because if water gets in there, it ruins my flashlight. And honestly, both of these were 30 bucks. Jim, if you're watching, look at your flashlight. They're crazy, crazy bright, and they have a really nice spread. They're not all focused in the middle. Pop it open. I'll shove the flashlights in there, turn them both on, and I have an assistant or someone that just stands underwater and holds the light on the model where I want it. And I usually have someone above holding lights and stuff too, but it's one of the cheapest things in the world, and it works really well. And someday when I'm super crazy rich and can afford all the underwater lighting gear that I need, I probably won't use this anymore, but right now, it really gets the job done. So also, if you really, really have to have that lighting and you really want to use it on location, but you just can't afford any of it, another good thing to do is talk to a studio or a collective because they have lighting that they let people use. You just have to sign a contract saying you're not going to do anything to it, and usually you have to put down a deposit, which is almost always refundable as long as you bring it back in the same quality that it's already in. How do you know what to put in your portfolio? Some of my most popular photos don't match recent work I've been doing, and if I take certain photos off of my website, I'm afraid I'll insult those clients that are in them. Your clients have absolutely no say with what goes on your website, what goes on your Facebook page. They have no say at all, period, ever. You pick the best photos that you have, and those are the ones that go on your site and in your portfolio and on your Facebook page. It doesn't matter if they're your family or your friends. If that photo of that person is not the best representation of your work, they have no business being on your website. For your artistic portfolio, a really good thing to keep in mind is that your work is constantly evolving. All artists' work is constantly evolving. A lot of my beginning pieces I love to death, but they're very different from the work I do now. They were in the beginning when I was still learning how to edit in Photoshop, and so they're overly saturated. They have a lot more contrast, and even though those are great pieces, I have two options. I can either go back and re-edit them, and I've done that before. I've gone back to an old piece of work that I truly love, but realized I didn't know what I was doing when I edited it. Or you need to just take it out of your portfolio. If it's not representing the kind of work you want to do or your vision as an artist, it doesn't belong in your portfolio. I've been interested in submitting to magazines and galleries for some time now, but I'm not sure if my work is the quality they're looking for. How did you know when it was safe to start putting your work out there? It's never safe to submit anything anywhere. You're always open for rejection, but that's kind of the life of being an artist, so don't worry about it. Go ahead and submit now. Research the magazines and research the galleries that you're trying to get into and make sure they're a good fit for you. And then begin submitting. These galleries and magazines get hundreds of submissions all the time. The bad ones, they don't really remember very much. They remember the good ones. The other thing to keep in mind, specifically with galleries, is that they're looking to work with artists that know what they're doing. You need to know your price range of your pieces, the sizes of your pieces that you're able to print at, your editions, how many are left in each edition. They want to know all of these things because it shows that you're experienced and you've done this before. It shows that you're dedicated enough that you're actually making a living as an artist. They don't want to babysit you along the way. They want to make sure you know exactly what you're doing. What is your favorite fruit? Nectarines, obviously. Are people eating other fruit? What are your favorite social media sites for marketing your business? Do you have any tips on the best way to use them and how much time do you spend on them? There are so many, I feel lost trying to keep up. Top 3 for me are probably Facebook, Instagram, Flickr is a really big one, and YouTube. Facebook runs on interaction, and so if you are interacting with the page quite a bit, you're going to see that page a lot in your newsfeed. If you stop interacting with that page, you don't see it as much. If you have a business page and you stop posting things for people to interact with, when you finally do post something, no one's going to see it. Make sure you're scheduling something every day, whether it's just a post or a picture, to make sure that there's some interaction so that when you do post something, it has a meaningful impact and it reaches the people that it needs to reach. A really good tip for Instagram is when you post a photo, you have the option to put hashtags after that photo in the description. If I post an underwater photo, I might hashtag underwater photography so that people can click on that and find anything related to underwater photography. A great thing to do with Instagram is instead of putting those hashtags in the description box, put them in the comment section. I post a hashtag of underwater photography, and then a month and a half goes by, I can delete that comment, post in another comment, hashtag underwater photography, and in the underwater photography group, my photo goes to the top again. I probably spend 30 to 60 minutes a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, on social media. And I know that that sounds like it's a lot. That's 7 hours a week. That's a whole other work day. You actually probably can find that time. Get all your posts ready for the week that you need to do, schedule them all out, and then you're done. You don't have to have all of these social media sites. LinkedIn does literally nothing for me. I have a Tumblr blog, but it's really because I just really like Tumblr. The bottom line of social media is to pick a couple of the ones that really, really work for you and then keep up with those ones. I live in a very rural area and we don't have a lot of vintage clothing stores. Where do you find such interesting clothing for your photo shoots? I live in a rural area too. I live in Montana. The whole state is rural. Even though we have a few vintage stores, I tend to get most of my stuff from Goodwill, and a ton of it online. You would not believe the stuff you can find on eBay for $1.50 with free shipping. Another thing is to make your own. Literally, anything I've made out of fabric is held together with safety pins. Takes a little while, but then there's a dress. I'm very new at Photoshop. What is a good way to start learning? Most tutorials I see are overwhelming to me and I don't know where to begin. Once again, I completely understand with this. When I very first started, I looked up a lot of tutorials on YouTube, and a lot of them were just completely over my head. I didn't know what they were talking about. So one of the ways that I've learned to really understand the details and how Photoshop works is actually to use actions that someone else has already made. What I'm going to do is open my set of actions that I have up on my website. Like, let's take a look at this one. It's a cool blush. We'll run this action. The whole point is actually to open them up and see what's in them and then play with that because it gives you a jumping off point. So with there, we've gone from there to there, and I like how that turned out, but open these up and you can see all these different layers and adjustments and all this kind of stuff. This is where you start playing. So what I would usually do is take all of these off, and so this is what you end up with, and then start putting them on one at a time. Here's a gradient. Open that up and see what it is. This is a radial gradient with these colors from the middle going out. That's what radial means at this kind. So you can change the scale, decide if you want it to be stronger or not. You can change the colors in here to be something different. You can change the blending modes. This is on soft light right now. Let's see what normal looks like. It's going to actually see the colors. So here is the orangish color going off to that purplish kind of a color that we saw earlier. That's what that is. And then the different blending modes will change that depending on what kind of a look you're going for. Here's a fill layer with this pink color we have here. I've got it on soft light. You can really raise it and see what that does. You can open it up and fill it into a different color. Maybe you want to fill it this blue here and see what that does. Maybe I want it to be bright, bright, bright red. Change the opacity on that a little bit. A photo filter. I didn't know photo filters existed until I started opening up actions and realizing, look at all this stuff you can do. Shoot, there's one called underwater. That's so cool. You know, curves. This is changing the actual color tone of the image. So let's click on that. Maybe I want to lower the blue on this side, make it more yellow. But that's an example of what you would do. So instead of just purchasing an action and playing it, open it up and see everything that's in it. And if you play as much as you possibly can, and if you don't like it and you want to go back to the original, I mean, there's your snapshot. That's what it originally did, and everything's already set to how it's supposed to be. What is the best photo advice you've ever been given? If you could give one piece of advice to new photographers starting out, what would it be? So much. I remember one of the best things advice that I'd gotten was when I went to PhotoFest, and a lot of the reviewers kept looking through my work and asking if I'd ever taken an art history class, and was like, no, I haven't. And they would just say, oh, we can tell, and that's all they said. And so finally, on the very last day, I was exhausted and completely drained, and one of the reviewers went through and said the exact same thing. They're like, you've never taken art history, have you? And I said, what the f*** does that even mean? He explained it to me. When you're a new artist starting out, you have all these great ideas and all these original ideas, and if you don't know what came before you, you don't understand that you're actually not that original, and it's probably already been done before. And going through art history, you can see that something that I thought was such a cool idea and it's so brand new and it's going to be awesome. Actually, this guy in 1534 did pretty much the same thing. I know now that every time I create a photograph, instead of just getting an idea and then just executing it blindly, I will get on Google and I will research the crap out of it to make sure no one else has anything similar. And if they do have something that's similar, I can look at it and see what they have done and change whatever my original idea was to put a different spin on it. So whatever I am producing actually is original, and it doesn't look like it's an accidental copy of somebody else's. The other thing is you really got to work to view your own art as something other than just an extension of your personality. Art is incredibly personal, and when someone critiques it, it feels like they're critiquing you as a person. This is really boring, therefore you are really boring. That's not what they're saying at all. Whatever you've created can be improved, and it has nothing to do with you as a human being. Well, guys, that about does it for this one. Thank you so much for writing in. Don't forget to subscribe to my blog down below. I send out a lot of free overlays and textures and tutorials, and if you're on the subscriber list, you just get that stuff in your inbox when I send it out for free. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or email me or leave in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer it as soon as I can, or I might just have to put them all together and make another No Rules Q&A video, part 2. So, that's about it.
No, I'm working. Flo is here.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Apparently I'm just making up my own words now.